In today's video, I'm not going to explain the one tip that you need to know to become a monster deadlifter. In fact, I'm going to explain why there is no one tip, because every single positional or technical change that you make to your deadlift is a trade-off of different factors. And I'm also going to explain what those factors are and why the one thing that people give the most attention to has nothing to do with your strength performance. Your range of motion, or how far you move the bar during your lifts, has nothing to do with how much weight you can lift. And I know that sounds really counterintuitive, and there are examples obviously where it looks like that's the case, but correlation does not equal causation. The relevant factor is actually much more to do with the length-tension relationship of your muscle. Some of the best deadlifters in the world are extremely tall. They move the bar a really long way, but it's because of their other biomechanical features that give them the advantage. Another example that may sound stupid to begin with, but it's actually a great example of what we're talking about here, is that in a deep squat, the bottom 6 inches are going to be weaker than the top 12 inches. Same movement, same muscle, greater range of motion, but I'm stronger. And again, that's because of the length-tension relationship of the muscles producing the force. With a bench press, the further I have to bring the bar down, the bigger the stretch is being applied to my pec, and the weaker the position is getting put in for me to press. If I arch my back loads and I don't put as much stretch on my chest, it puts me into a stronger position to press from. With a bench press, it kind of doesn't matter. If you reduce range of motion, you're improving the length-tension relationship of the muscle. In a deadlift, that's not the case. If we take a sumo stance, the way that I reduce the range of motion is by going wider, and that's putting my adductors on a bigger stretch, putting me into a weaker position to lift the weight. Now you're probably thinking of all the elite lifters who have got a max stance width in their deadlift and thinking, well, how are they making it work? Well, it's because it's not the only factor that's at play. We've got to consider leverage as well as how much we can push with our legs. So here's what that looks like. If I take a conventional stance and I have the bar in a perfectly leveraged position, that means it's touching my shins, it's over the center of my foot, I can't now push with my legs. To do that, I need to bend my knees, that rolls the bar forward, and it makes my leverage worse. In a sumo stance, I do not have to make that compromise. I can get as close as I want to the bar, and I can still bend my knees, I can drop down, and I can push. In a narrow sumo stance, my hips are still a fair distance back behind the bar. So the advantage of going wider is that I can bring my hips even closer in, and now I've got absolutely perfect leverage, everything's stacked on top of the bar. So it may well be that for you, the best position is the one that has the maximum amount of leverage, and you can still be really strong even though your muscles are on a big stretch. But for each individual, it's a case of working out where that balance is going to lie. If your only goal in terms of your technical position or your approach to deadlifting, or the reason you're trying sumo in the first place is to reduce range of motion, you're probably wasting your time and potentially even putting yourself into a position where your body doesn't want to push from, which may just cost you kilos on the bar, potentially even creating niggles and compensation patterns that can hold you back longer term.